if I presence myself, it's something that I can choose. It's something that I can actually do. I can bring myself present.
Katie, hello. Hello, hello.
Hello. So lovely to see your beautiful face.
Always yours. I'm just noticing that your shirt would go so well with my glasses.
Oh, yes. And I love these combinations of how we spark each other's creativity and choices, but also how we notice, oh, that goes with this. And that weaving is part of what I really enjoy in our conversations.
Wow, that's a perfect way to start, actually. I had a conversation with this young woman who was sent to me because she wants a job in fashion and a friend knew to introduce her, whatever the story was. But midway, I said to her, it would be nice to know that when you grow older, she's 21, that you would turn around and share, what you know as an older woman to, pass the baton. And she started crying. She was so touched, but almost from a place of not knowing what this concept was almost. And it really moved my heart. And so I wanted to talk about that because I feel like you and I, if we have a zone of genius, certainly one of them is we've built these beautiful relationships, particularly with women, maybe. But I just wanted to start us there because what a moving thing to see this young woman so deeply shaken by the idea that we would be there for each other that way.
Yes, yes. Well, when I was growing up, I think part of what the culture was up to is keeping women from actually connecting.
Yeah.
And fostering a kind of competitiveness and, comparing yourself to how other women looked and how other women were, more accomplished or, particularly if they had gotten a man. That was the,
That was the thing.
that was the big prize. In fact, my mother would say that instead of graduating from college, she had gotten an MRS, which is a Mrs. She had gotten an MRS, so that she had gotten her man. Oh. And so the whole idea that women could support each other and appreciate each other and really root for each other was considered really suspect. It was almost, almost communist. Like, what are you doing? This is not the American way. You have your nuclear family and you take care of them, and then other women are really more threats. And so fostering relationships where women genuinely appreciate and are looking for what's your genius and how can I really support that and bring that forward. That just wasn't done. And so I love having an opportunity. That's one of the things I most love about talking to you is that we bounce off of, what's happening, what's emerging, what are you interested in, what I may see in you that you are, so involved in it that you don't really see it. And I can shine a little light on like your ability to curate, the most important thing in all of this big bunch of material. You can pull out, well, that's the important thing. And the value of that, that I've experienced so many times, just as an example of how noticing the other with kindness makes a huge difference.
Wow, thank you. I was going to go somewhere else, but I'm going to take a moment and just receive that. That was really beautiful because I experienced you as doing that with people, your ability to pull what's beautiful about this one and what's noticeable about this one and speak from such a compliment is an art. Like sharing genuinely a compliment. It's because we've become polite.
Polite, I think repressed. Polite is, polite is a polite way of saying that a lot of people have gotten scared about putting themselves out. And that totally makes sense to me with the meanness and division and polarization that's occurred in so many areas over the last 8 years or so. But what I was reflecting when you were saying a compliment, what for me is underneath that is a genuine appreciation.
Yeah.
So a compliment, oh, you look great.
Yeah.
Sort of bounces off, or,
Yeah.
oh, I like your blouse. It doesn't really weave. But if I say, when I look at the way your glasses and your shirt and the tone of your skin dance together, I feel this big breath and this sense of spaciousness. And so it's really about how my aliveness is affected by your aliveness. And the more we can articulate that, I think the more it fosters this, play of what we call presencing, of being with, rather than that bounce off that a lot of us, we go through like, oh, love you. Oh, great to see you. That doesn't really nurture, and connect.
That is really profound to hear. Sometimes I feel sadness that not everyone has a Katie. I do. I feel like you've enriched my life in such magical ways that sometimes I'm literally like, it's like you see your neighbor and they don't have a ball to play. And you're like, I wish you had a ball. It's like, I wish you had a Katie. It would be so good for you.
Oh, thank you. Well, I've had people say that they'll hear my voice in their head, like, what would Katie say? And what I love about that is that they experience me as a source of presence and nourishment and love, rather than if I think about like, what would my mother say? It doesn't have that quality at all.
Nope, not mine either. Nope. Well, you've mentioned the word presencing, which it's funny because there's a part of my body that knows exactly what that means, but I would like to discuss it from a more intellectual, maybe. Like, I'd like to understand, what does it mean? If I wanted to practice it, what would I do? Like, I'd love to spend time in that word. That's so delicious.
Oh, thank you. I've experienced those people back in the day when I was really looking at what is it that's going to allow me and others to enjoy their lives day to day more directly. And people would say, well, just stay present, or get present. And using present as a noun stops it. And so one of the first things I did is create presencing. And I want that. And every time I type it, of course, it's underlined in red. But I think that if enough people do this and to create presencing, because if I presence myself, it's something that I can choose. It's something that I can actually do. I can bring myself present. And rather than staying present, which is impossible, we don't stay anything, but I can then presence myself. If I drift off, I can presence myself. And for me, it's a combination of giving attention to myself. I'm giving curious attention to myself. It's like, where are you? So where are you right now, Katie? Are you here? Are you thinking about lunch or what? And so presencing is first locating myself here, feeling myself here, and then noticing how I am interacting with what's going on around me right now. So for me, it is really like noticing my breath, which people hardly ever do unless somebody says, take a breath. But if I'm breathing, then that opens an inner sense of space. And if I'm breathing, then I also have more space to notice what's going on around me. And presencing, one of the main things that I experience is that I shift out of any kind of fear. So the main thing that I use, the fear melters that, that we can talk about at some other time, is to move from that stuck place of stopping my energy, either in fight or in flee or freeze or faint. And when I befriend those, which I do with my presencing, which is basically I give attention to what is going on rather than running away from it or trying to stop it or control it. So I really think of presencing as being with. It's not just being, it's being with. So I think of being, like the monk who's being, but when you go out into the marketplace again, what happens to your being when you encounter all of the stuff that's going on and things that don't go right and stuff that breaks. And so being with is, for me, the quickest definition for presencing. If I can be with this, I can be with this emotion. I can be with this. Like I was just thinking yesterday, I was in the kitchen and we were doing Gay and I were doing our morning things together. I was giving tuna to the cat, and he was getting his breakfast, and I handed him the cream, which we both like in our coffee, and I hadn't remembered to put the cap on the tightly, and so he was shaking it, and then he shook cream all over the floor. And so there we were, with
cats were happy. The cats were licking
and the cat. Oh my! And so in fact, actually, because I knew they would come running and they would, it would make them sick if they drink that much. So I was mopping it up and I left a little bit on the floor for the cats to lick up. But that kind of thing happens. Stuff happens and throws us off, or go and so being with. So I just took a moment to be with, oh, yeah, that happened, and instead of, blaming myself or getting mad, we kind of laughed. It's like, oh, boy,
there we
stuff
go.
happens. And it makes it so much more of a kind of a daily dance, as we're going, the input, it isn't just me doing the things that I think I need to do in the day. It's always a dance with the unexpected. That happens over and over again. And so finding the way in that moment to be with, for me, is just an ongoing practice. And it's not something that you ever arrive at.
No, it's like an act. It's an action for us to come back to it and come back.
Yes. And to return, renew, refresh, all of the re's that allow me to go, oh yeah, that happened, and here I am. And here I am, and I can be with this. And sometimes it's harder to be with.
Yeah.
Something happens that's very sad, or someone that I really care for is sick, or somebody I admire died. To be with that is takes more of my noticing, and then being with the flow of feeling, being with the flow of thought, being with the flow of what I'm noticing going on with the person that I'm with. And that's another kind of being with. It's kind of like skiing together with somebody, or even just walking.
Birds, the way the birds do that, like they each other.
The murmuration. Yes, that is a profound being with. And my sense is that the more I practice being with, the more skillful I get at, making the turns and opening and shifting, but also enjoying. So if I get present, it's like, I've just
static.
I've landed. And also there's a sense of fear is going to come in right away because nothing ever stays.
Yeah. So you're going to lose it.
I'm going to lose it. And then I'm afraid I'm going to lose it. And then that makes me lose it. And so rather than, staying present, I really say, you're going to lose it. And then you can find yourself again.
Yeah. Wow. I've never said that out loud on the show, but I think I'm going to say it for this one. If you have an opportunity to watch the video for this one, go on YouTube, because watching Katie, as she was talking about all this, I'm just doing a little side talk here, but go see the video, because there was so many descriptions and visuals and flowing with you. I was just completely hypnotized. So on this one, I would say stop whatever you're listening and go watch the video instead.
Thank you. Yeah. One of the things I realize too, for me, I can hear and connect deeply through listening and speaking. But for me, you can't really see how I'm moving. Yeah. And because I'm a mover, and a lot of what I communicate is through the way that I'm moving. So if you want to get the full treat, watch.
You'll get this one. Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because your face was also very expressive, like it goes fast. The way you were just saying, you spoke to being sad, but then you moved to being, it's almost like physically I could see you genuinely being in everything you were saying. And it goes fast. You don't have to feel like sadness doesn't have to be a thing that takes the day. You can feel this sadness. And then, as you said, it takes a little bit more attention. I like the way you spoke to that. But also, there's no need to be there for a day. You can really switch to the next thing pretty gracefully.
Well, I also think that people don't really understand that it is the being with that opens flow. And the flow, particularly the flow of aliveness, when I can be with even, sadness or anger, when I really be with it, then what I get is more aliveness. And then I have more alive. It's like filling my reservoir of aliveness that I can then meet life with, and when I'm really stuck, how I notice that I'm stuck is that nothing's moving.
Yeah.
And being with creates movement and circulation. There's just so much now research, and your own experience is going to tell you that circulation is the most important thing that we can focus on with our presence, with our health, is that disease comes from stagnation. And stuckness in our relationships comes from stagnation. So when I'm being with, that creates flow. And even if it's a flow of a feeling or a flow of, hey, I didn't like what I just realized I'm still mad at you.
Chaos is a flow.
That's flow. And our learning how to be with flow, I think, is our one of our human skills really needed right now.
I love this idea that it's a thing you can have in your pocket or in your heart or whatever you store your things, but it really is a skill that you can learn, so that anytime you feel the stuckness, it's one place you can go. You can go to loving, you can go to watching something beautiful, you can go, but to have that as a base, to be able to say, oh, wait, like you said earlier, like, where am I? Where's Katie right now? Like, where
am I? And literally, if you practice this, even just a little bit, you'll make yourself safer in the world, just moving through the world, because this creates situational awareness. Where am I then also allows me to notice where everything else is around me.
Yeah.
Whether I'm in traffic or whether someone's coming toward me and there's something about him that's looks a little funny, or there's something like, oh, I really want to connect with this person. And what I was realizing too, which is so much a part of me that I don't talk about it very much, but it's really the shifting of attention that is the basis of presencing. And so that I can notice me, and then I notice you, and then I notice me. I don't get caught in, wow, over there, or I'm so in this, I just don't have any attention for anything else. It's the shifting that it kind of primes the pump. Also, it's like the bellows of aliveness. When you're shifting your attention, you get more energy, movement, aliveness, breath, and just from that simple thing of shifting your attention. So for me, presencing it and locating has the basis of that is, what am I doing with my awareness?
When you think of it, the very act of breathing is, we don't put the attention on it, but it has an attention in going out, going in, going out, going in.
Yes, yes.
The beat. Like when you look at all of it, nature, during the day, at night, it's all from one to the other, from one to the other. It just keeps moving. I don't know who sold us that something were to be arrested in development, arrested in time, that we should hold on to this, because there's no such thing. There really, truly is no such thing.
There is no such thing. The whole, that life has changed. That's the only thing that we can count on. And I know for me, one of the most difficult experience is the thought that I'm having the wrong experience.
Yeah.
So this should not be happening. Like this cannot possibly be happening to me.
And yet it's happening. So
and yet it's happening. And so that resistance to shifting is, I think, what a lot of people like, oh, I just got, like, just a simple example, I just got the house clean.
Mm-hmm.
The house is beautiful and clean, and then of course something spills, or or something breaks, or the cat drags the food across the floor, and that's a simple one. But the other, my friend should not be sick.
Yeah.
What do you mean she has cancer? This should not be happening.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for a lot of us, we struggle with, I'm having the wrong experience. Mm-hmm. And so when I can let myself go, I'm having that thought that I'm having the wrong experience. And so how am I experiencing that? Am I like, I feel mad about it, or I'm getting heavy in my body with it, or I'm distracting myself with it. But the moment I can actually be with, I really don't like it that this is happening, that again begins to open flow. It might be a little trickle at first, but any movement to be able to be with, I think, just creates so much of my ability to then choose in my life right now. Okay, now how do I want to? Now what? How do I want to just be with the sadness? Do I want to put on some music? Do I want to communicate? So for me, often it'll be, I want to communicate with this person. Mm-hmm. And then I get the flow of connection going again. I'll say, I haven't heard from you, and I'm just wondering. And then the other person will say, yeah, I was really sick. I thought, I just knew something was going on, because I felt it. And then we're back in flow again. And yes.
I was just reminded with some sadness, because another option here is to go numb. A few years ago, I found out one of my closest friends, we called each other sisters from other mothers, and that whole thing. And I found out on a Friday by message, she left a message on my phone saying that she was diagnosed with cancer. But I will tell, so I felt something, but then it was Monday night, and I said, I remembered that message had happened. Like I had literally made myself forget. Yes, I had made myself disconnect from this really, and of course it wasn't disinterest or any kind of ignoring what happened. And I did call her that Monday night saying I could not be exactly what you just said. Like I could not be with this incredibly unbearable news. Mm-hmm. And so I stuffed it away. I probably ate a lot that weekend, if I were to imagine, because that's what I would do in the past, is, cover my feelings. So that takes me to a question I have for you, which is, do you think for some people it is difficult to feel because of a backlog of not having felt? Like, I feel that's right.
Yeah.
Please come in.
I so appreciate you saying that, because I think that is one of the main reasons why people won't open up to a current feeling, because it opens the door to the backlog.
Yes.
And they're afraid, they're like, if I cry, I'm just going to cry forever.
Yeah.
And if I get angry, I'm going to have to murder somebody, because I just am so angry.
So pent up. Yeah.
And it's so pent up. And so I sometimes will, and by the way, I just wanted to say, I think that what you're calling going numb, it sounds like it's a variation of a flee move.
Yeah.
So we have freeze, and fight and flee. And so the numbing, it could also be a little bit of freezing.
Yeah.
So numbing, and then if you use substances or working hard, or we can stuff things, but we can't stuff them forever. People think, well, I'll just stuff it away and then and that is actually, I think, the root of disease for lots of people, because those feelings don't go anywhere. And when you stuff them, you have to stop circulating. Mm-hmm. And that whole circulating of feeling, of attention, of breathing, of moving, those are all aspects of circulation. But when you're stuffing, you go the other direction. And then what that does is make you actually feel stuffed, instead of thick or heavy or like dense. Mm-hmm. And that backlog sometimes with people, when I notice and I suspect there might be a backlog, what I'll ask them to do is to, and I can sometimes do it with them, is to put on some music that seems to represent kind of the
feel,
what they're drawn to, whether it's heavy metal or rap or a symphony that is, has really, really sad music, and let themselves just move to it without trying to express or clarify or think about it, but just let it, because then that starts the circulation again.
Yeah.
And it starts them being able to be with it. And then also I'll sometimes say, gosh, when I try that on, it sounds like a lot.
Yeah.
And it's a lot. And so I wonder what's one thing that you can be with right now. And I can be with it with you. And I think that's one of the things we can do with friends, is that if I'm not the one who's had the diagnosis, I can be with the other and also feel my feelings, but I can lend my loving presence to surround them so they can open up to what wants to really be with right now, to be presenced right now. And it's I've received the gift of people being with me when I've had big upsets, and I think it's the biggest gift that we can give to the people we care about is to be with them.
It's interesting how you're speaking to stagnancy and no movement. Like, I was thinking about the Dead Sea, which is literally a water that does not have movement, and nothing lives there. The fish die instantly. I mean, it's just that there's no life from the lack of recycling movement. And how could we not? We are a body of water.
Yes, that's a wonderful phrase. Yeah, we are a body of water for sure.
Yeah. So if you think of water that sits in a puddle, how long does it take to become this bacterial infection, that we would think that we can get away with not flowing,
Well, I think part of that is because humans think that we're above nature. A lot of we can conquer nature. We can make nature hold still, which is, hilarious. Like the Army Corps of Engineer trying to manage the Mississippi River. That's always it's one of the things I learned in school is they try to dam the Mississippi. It was hilarious because nobody's going to dam the Mississippi River. And it's also the same with us. Nobody really can dam themselves up. Right. So it's going to show up in one way or another. And if we give ourselves a conscious choice to be with, then some kind of flow comes up out of that gives us more aliveness. And the experience of aliveness, I've found, is so much more. It's so inherently delicious. It's like we think we're supposed to go somewhere or get somewhere. But the actual act of presencing allows me to enjoy being here right now. And then Ram Dass, years and years ago, his book, Be Here Now.
Yeah.
And really diving into that, the benefit of being here now. I've often said to people, this is it. Right now, this is it. But people go, oh no, when I've, lost the weight, or when, I've gotten the next
money, or when
I'm rich, or when then I will, then everything will be much better.
In closing, as we like to close a little bit with a how-to, I was imagining to recommend to our people that are listening, who in your life is the person you can be with. And deliberately set up a time this weekend, set up a time where I would say to you, I want to be with you with whatever's present. What would you like it to be? Like what is a thing? Because the backlog is a real thing, like that sadness that could make you cry for the next 3 weeks. I mean, people... I've experienced it, that when I started feeling my feelings, it was like these big waves, but now something happens, I feel it, a few seconds.
Yes, and it passes on through. But, because you've excavated and you've let yourself be with, you've dived and so the having a friend, an advocate, someone to be with you really amplifies being with.
Yeah.
And for the times when we feel incapable, like I just can't be with this, but you have a friend who can be with.
Can be, yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And even if you can't be with them in the moment, you could have them think of you.
Yeah.
And then, and give you that attention. And I've experienced that as very real. When someone is thinking of me and, thinking about what's going on, but I experience that as a warmth, a sense of my heart slows down, and I sense that I can create more space. I'm not tucked in. I can open and more.
Loved.
And then I'm available for life again.
You're being loved. The energy of being loved is surrounding you. So I think that could be a fun little moment for people, a beautiful and deep moment to pick a person and trade the space. It's like, how did it be with you? And then turn it around. And what I want to do it with you. I mean, not in this very moment necessarily, but I mean, I feel like we do it a lot, but
I believe we do that all the time.
We do. But I think having a deliberate thing where I can say to you, when I was 12, this thing happened with my mom that just left this cut in my, just telling you. I've actually,
I felt that. I felt that right where you were touching. Yeah.
Whoa. I mean, just because it's still in my being, it's still in myself, right? And so just the ability, like we could organize these moments where everyone gets to almost like around the fire, and just be like, I'm putting this moment in this fire with you, and let it burn away. Because I do think that this backlog needs our attention. I think it's a deliberate, you got to go at it. Like it's not.
I agree. And I so appreciate you mentioning that because, my experience, particularly in the last 8 years, is that I had to manage my backlog on a daily basis because there was so much coming at me that was so unalive and so repressive, and all of the different traumas that we've gone through, collectively and individually, not to mention our childhoods and all of that. But even just to get current, I love that idea. I think it's a wonderful idea.
Beautiful. Well, as always, I walk away from these calls like I hope our listeners receive this love that you share with us, because it's just so delicious. Thank you.
Well, just take a moment right now and receive us, because what we're doing, what Sophie and I are doing, is being with, and want to be with you, and any places in you that you can't be with. Just imagine us surrounding you with that loving attention so that you can begin to be with.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you soon.